We have seen this health crisis moving across Canada from west to east, and it's caused so many deaths. In British Columbia now, it's over 1,000, and we can see it migrate and moving across the country, and it's going to hit all of us. And that the challenge about it is that it doesn't fit any particular pattern. It doesn't, it's not restricted to some particular social economic class. It affects everybody. And it's something that really, at the beginning, wasn't understood. And we have to get this message out there that this is exactly what's happening, and we have to have this conversation. And that's why what Sean has started is this conversation, getting this issue the kind of attention it deserves.
And now it's not really for your level of government, but what would you like to do as a politician to help this issue?
I think that there are some short-term things that we can do, and everything that the provinces have asked us to do, we've done. We've put changes in legislation in place. We've actually shared some money and some expertise with the provinces. But to really address it, it's such a complex issue that no one single level of government can do it on their own. It has to be a comprehensive solution. It has to be collaborative. You're right, we cannot drive the solutions from the federal government, but we have resources and assets that maybe the provinces don't have or the municipalities don't have. And so we have to be part of that solution and do whatever we can to contribute to this solution.
And, there's been a big talk about getting youth involved, helping out the youth, and, also having youth help this issue, getting the youth involved and to care about this issue, because really it's affecting them now and also when they're older as well. What do you think we should do to continue to keep the youth involved and get them involved in the first place?
The first step is education. And what I've seen, though, in the past with some of these issues is that it's all top down. Well, if we need that information to share out from grassroots, we need to get the youth having this conversation. But that's why opening these doors and giving people the tools they need to have this conversation, because it's not a simple conversation, and it's issue that in the past with young people, there has been drug experimentation has been going on for a long time, but it's changed now. We have to get them to understand that it's really become a life and death issue, and we have to be prepared for that discussion, and I don't think we always have been.
And so what do you think we should do to be prepared for that discussion and to also have it being taught in our schools?
Mm-hmm. I would really like to see more peer support. And there are addictions counselors, there are people that can actually understand what's happening. Get the youth involved. Create like peer counselors. And I know that it works from other work that I do, is peer on peer matters, because you will listen to a peer where you might not listen to it coming from the top down. So find those peers, find those people that, like you, who will go out and discuss this issue and who aren't afraid to take it head on, and then give them the tools they need in order to be able to do that.
And we've seen it with young children like Jessica Spirac, who you met with, and
yes,
she's had a very active involvement in this. What would you like to see for people like her?
I think she's part of the solution. And sometimes I think we don't understand the power of that peer-to-peer network. And I think we need to put more resources there. Find the people who will actually, young people who want to be part of this solution, and let them be part of the solution. Invite them in, because I believe that they're the ones who knows how we're going to change certain kind of behaviors, how we're going to influence young people and make sure they understand the dangers. And even when they do understand the dangers, if they're struggling with this, if it becomes an addictions issue, they're the ones who can talk to their peers without being judgmental, just being honest. And it's hard when it comes from top down, from an adult down to a youth, because it's always interpreted in a certain way. But if it's youth talking to youth, they can do that without that judgment.
And you brought up the topic of a tougher curriculum whenever it comes to speaking about drugs and not being afraid to share the facts. What do you think that means, and what do you think we should have as a curriculum to help make sure that the youth are educated?
Oh, I think there's so much we can do. I think just by having those discussions, first of all, about what drives drug usage. Okay, what are the things that actually encourage or drive people towards this? Look at it, what's happening in people's lives at that time, young people's lives, when they're going through puberty and adolescence. What are the factors that might come into play? And the psychology of it. And how do you create a network of support where people don't feel isolated and don't feel that in order to fit in, they have to do what someone else wants them to do, which may be try drugs. So that understand those, make sure that those supports are in place. The thing is, I was just looking it up today because one of the things that we've done at the federal level is introduce legislation that would allow border services to actually search and inspect parcels or letters of less than an ounce, less than 30 grams. And 30 grams, what does that really mean? 1 ounce. But with every gram, there is 500 lethal doses of fentanyl. Every gram. And a 1 ounce letter times 30, you're talking, 15,000 lethal doses. So how do we deal with people? Have to understand that that's what changed. It's not like it was. This new drug fentanyl is 100 times more powerful than heroin. And I think if you had that honest conversation with people, they would understand what the real concern is. So give them these facts, give them this information. And I think stigma, okay? I think stigma is one of those issues where, school doesn't want to talk about this, and then they'll be accused of having a problem with drugs in that school. It's everywhere, okay? Just because someone talks about it at one school doesn't mean it's not throughout all the schools. It is. It's there. So we have to kind of take away that judgment, take away that stigma, and then allow people to have this conversation.
And after speaking to many politicians, some say we're in a crisis, some say we are borderline a crisis, and some say that it's not a crisis, it's just an issue. What do you think?
Oh, I think it is becoming a crisis. I do believe it is. And as more and more, and if you look at, now we're just talking about fentanyl, right? What about car fentanyl? It's the next step up. And these kind of illicit drugs, they will get more and more sophisticated as time goes on. And they're looking for markets. So I think we need to take this seriously right now. And we can't afford to wait anymore. The evidence I've seen that in all of the OECD countries, Canada's young people have the highest usage rate of marijuana in all the OECD countries. So we have to admit, this is where we have to admit that there's an issue there. And if we can keep going the way we're going, but all that's happening is that younger and younger people are being given marijuana because or cannabis, it's in the control of organized crime. So if we want to make a difference, we have to take those profits away from organized crime, and then we have to control and regulate marijuana in such a way that young people aren't getting it. I've talked to some young people, and they said, "Yeah, I can get it. You tell me, I can get it tomorrow. I know who to talk to. I know where it is. I know how to get it." And so, I think people are naive if they think that our young people don't have access to it now, right? Because they do. And now we're seeing that they're lacing. Sometime I've heard of incidents of marijuana being laced with fentanyl because it is so highly addictive. They want customers, and so they have no concern about. They just want to make money. So we're going to take the profits away from organized crime. We are going to strictly regulate and control it, and then we're going to use some of that money that comes in, that tax money. We're going to educate people. We're going to provide the right tools that the police need in order to address the issue, and we're going to treatment. So I think what we've been working on, and it's been a year, more than a year and a half since the election, but it's the same thing. We wanted a comprehensive, long-term solution. And so we're negotiating with the provinces what the federal government will do, the legislation has to be put into place, the funding that has to be put into place, and let the provinces actually manage it. So, we have, alcohol is a drug that's in our society right now. And we have our challenges with it. So this is just another, but what prohibition didn't really work, and we're finding the exact same thing with marijuana. Prohibition isn't working, so we have to find another solution, and that's what we're working on.